Coming up on WRAL Triangle and 2, the U.S. women's national team is in a bit of a make-or-break situation in group play in the Women's World Cup. We'll talk about what they have to do. Plus, Bryce Young is officially QB1 for the Carolina Panthers. So what does that mean for the preseason? Should they put the young quarterback at risk? How much does he need to learn? But let's go ahead and get started with ACC football. The ACC kickoff is over and done with, and we've got just about a month until the ACC football season gets started. I'm Luis Fernandez. He's Mack Brown. Mark, when we're in kind of the football talking season, I don't know how much we actually take away from what people are saying. There's a lot of coach speak, but let's look at what we actually learned with the ACC kickoff, and let's get started with the team that probably has the most expectations on their shoulders, aside from maybe Clemson. In the ACC, maybe Florida State's up there too, but UNC, what did you learn about UNC through the ACC kickoff?
Well, I wanted to ask you the same thing, Lewis, as a UNC alum. Drake Maye, Mack Brown and company getting their time to shine at the podium in Charlotte. And it's trying to decipher between what all the coach speak means. I'll say this. I mean, the big question is going to be, can North Carolina figure out a way to get to the title game after falling off at the end of last season with 4 consecutive losses to end the 2022 season? So can Drake Maye make the adjustments to the adjustments now that there's a full season of tape out on him? And Lewis, maybe I'm being a little bit petty here, but saying I want to get back to the ACC championship game. No. Go win the conference. Go knock off the golden goose that is Clemson. That should be your goal. But Mack Brown said it best. You win, everything else is going to take care of itself. Whether the Tar Heels do that or not, that's an entirely different question.
Yeah, because I think that's to me, when I look at what UNC has to accomplish this season, it's difficult because UNC's been in these kind of situations before where you have a highly touted prospect at Sam Howell, for example, Mitch Trubisky, another example.
We got a lot of pipeline in Chapel Hill, Lewis.
It's, there's another school in Raleigh that likes to try and claim QBU, but no, I'm just messing. But I think that, there's a lot of expectations and hype around this team. So you have to accomplish something similar at very least to last year. And it's not like UNC is out here constantly going to the ACC championship game. Most of their ACC football success has come, at least from a championship game perspective, over the past decade or so. So I don't know. It's the UNC would have to reach the same level at the very least that we saw last year. The fall off last year also is a little bit concerning. That's why you bring in someone like Chip Lindsey to propel this offense forward. A lot of pieces that have to be fixed, that have to be replaced, especially the wide receiver room. But there's a lot of talent coming in. I think one of the underrated parts of the season that we're going to be watching from an ACC football perspective is just how divisionless football takes hold. Because that's going to play a huge role. Who you're playing, how is your schedule turn out? I mean, so much of the season is just about, hey, who do you play? What's your schedule? Because that's the difference between saying, hey, you're like a Duke who has to start the season against Clemson versus someone who maybe has an easier schedule.
Last year with the Tar Heels, they didn't play like a ranked team for nearly the entire season, Lewis.
That's just you have to play the teams that are on your schedule, and that's what a lot of people. That's what so many folks put in the Atlantic division would always be upset about is the fact that if you're in the Atlantic, you have to go through Florida State when Florida State was great, or Clemson and all those different teams. And the Coastal, meanwhile, always had that bit of chaos surrounding it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because you have obviously Clemson is. The assumption is going to be Clemson again. Cade Klubnik, what he does. Florida State just screams Florida State is back. When you look at what they are able to accomplish, what they have a quarterback, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Let me ask you this, Lewis. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
I want to hop in here, and I think this will center our discussion. What is considered a successful season for you with Drake Maye and company with North Carolina? Because I look at it from the standpoint, haven't won a conference title since 1980, but what say you, Luis Fernandez?
I mean, with the expectations that have been placed on this team, I think a return to the ACC championship game would be considered a success. And then it depends how you play in said ACC championship game. And when you listen to them talk in the ACC kickoff, a lot of UNC players and coach Mack Brown really emphasize how much they got beat up in the ACC championship game, just how handily Clemson took care of business. So, then I think that's when you start to look at it. Because if you don't make the ACC championship game, I mean, what's the difference between, how is last year not as successful as this year? You know what I mean? Like,
And let me make 2
yeah.
points too. New offensive coordinator. So that's new with a quarterback who's, okay, maybe a Heisman candidate, potentially a first round draft pick, one of the top picks in the 2024 draft. And it's not that you don't have talent in the receiver room, but the rapport you had with Josh Downs, the rapport you had with Antoine Green, which don't overlook the fact that he almost got 2 first downs every single time he caught the ball for the Tar Heels last season. So that's what I'm looking for early on is what's the rapport like that Drake Maye has with his receivers and then with his coaching and the fact that he has a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, because the offense was really great, but it was almost too Drake Maye dependent. So what I'm looking for with UNC is this elevation of play from Drake Maye, but also an elevation of the team around him where you don't have to say, hey, Drake, go win the game. That's offensively and defensively.
Let's go to some of the other teams in the triangle, Lewis.
Yes.
And I want to stir the pot a little bit here. I don't actually believe this, but what happens if Duke somehow upset Clemson, which hasn't happened in like 20 years? It was before Dabo Swinney was even there. But what happens to where when Riley Leonard, the Duke quarterback, flips and says, no, I'm the best quarterback in this division. So much for this Drake Maye guy over there. I think it would have to rely on, hey, a week 1 major upset against Clemson. And let me say this too, Luis Fernandez, now that sports betting is coming to the state of North Carolina. Right now, as it stands, it is a 13-point line on Clemson, but that game is going to be played, I believe, on September the 4th. So here's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to be trying to recoup their losses from over the opening weekend of college football. Let me lay it all on Clemson. That 13-point line is going to move to like 16 between now and then. But Duke's got to be happy because they extend Mike Elko. Some interest there from outside of Duke. I think that's Duke getting out ahead of, there's a vacancy at Northwestern. There's going to be other vacancies throughout the course of the season. But can they build on what was a very good season in year 1 of Mike Elko a year ago? And Riley Leonard, he might be the best quarterback here in the triangle, Lewis. I don't actually believe that. Duke fans might make that argument, though.
No. I mean, so it's what Duke is going through right now. Duke football is this, I think, classic overreaction archetype, if you will.
I love this.
Duke had some really incredible success last year compared to where they were the year before. You could probably ask. I mean, Duke was I either picked to finish last or second to last in the ACC last year, and then they come out and they almost win 10 games. I mean, awesome. That's so great for Duke.
9-4 compared to 3-9, 2-9,
Yes.
5-7. It had been since 2018 since Duke had made a bowl game.
There still is a huge gap in talent between a Duke and a Clemson.
Yeah, 100%.
So Duke is not going to beat Clemson. I feel very confident about that.
Yeah.
But I think Duke can make it very interesting. And I think Riley Leonard deserves to be given his flowers. I think he's going to be he was a great quarterback last year. I think he's going to continue to be a really good quarterback for Duke. He's going to probably build up his draft stock a little bit depending on how the season goes. But I just think Duke it might be pump the brakes a little bit. The mindset I still have with Duke is they could end up winning fewer games this year but being a better team than they were last year. I'm
trying to get research on to figure out the last time Duke upset Clemson in football too. Not talking about hoops, not talking about the hardwood. It's been a long time.
It's been quite some time. Either way, that was Duke and UNC. Let's go and turn to the last team in the triangle, NC State.
Brennan Armstrong, baby.
Brennan Armstrong.
And you've got a quarterback named Armstrong. It's like an ice cream man named Cone, Luis Fernandez. And maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much, but like NC State has like no expectations going into this year versus I feel like last year you still wind up a top 25 team, but you probably fall short of, hey, You had Devin Leary, the preseason player of the year. Obviously, he gets hurt. Ton of other injuries across the course of the team. Going into this year with like no expectations, if they even deliver somewhat, if they got back into, say, the top 25, it's like icing on the cake.
So that's the question, right? Because I think NC State is always going to have a consistent defense. That's just what that team is. That's who Dave Doran is as a coach. They're going to have a consistent good defense. A lot of the players who left, and they had some very key players, especially at linebacker, leave, but they're filling in with players who have a lot of experience, either playing because of injuries or just getting reps on the field in general. So I don't think there's going to be this huge drop off with the defense. So it's all going to come down to, can that offense catch up? And I think Brennan Armstrong, if he can obviously go back to what he was 2 years ago, then yes. And that's why you bring in someone like Robert Anae at offensive coordinator to help propel State to that point. But it still is going to be about the team that's surrounding him. What do they have at wide receiver? What do they have at running back? What is going to be around Brennan Armstrong? And it's always, when someone goes up and down like that in their career, it's like, hey, I need to see it to believe it first. But I think that is fair to say that State doesn't really have a whole lot of expectations on them this year. And so with that in mind, I think it would be very easy for State to go above and beyond their expectations if they can produce a consistent, solid offense.
I want to ask you, from Luis Fernandez, the North Carolina Tar Heels fan perspective, which team between Duke and NC State causes you more cause for concern from a fan standpoint, Luis?
I would say this is tough. At this
And when I say cause for concern, that like, hey, they're going to beat your Carolina Tar Heels, let me be clear.
At this point in time, I think just from a UNC perspective, I think you go with State just because of, the history that UNC and State football have.
I think that's fair.
And, and I do think that the unknown of Brendan Armstrong and Robert Anae and that Virginia success translating at NC State, that is intriguing to me. Whenever you have a team that's willing to adapt and evolve, and I think that's what we are seeing with Dave Doran and the Wolfpack, is that they are willing to adapt and evolve and say, hey, we can't just win by playing good defense, maybe getting a safety, get a couple of field goals, and punt the ball well. Like that evolution is always a little bit scary because you don't know what you're going to get. I don't know. I just this might be a little bit just kind of recency bias, but I genuinely feel like we could see the best overall football in the triangle that we have seen in quite some time. Like I think
overall, definitely. And
yeah.
really, to answer that question, Luis, I hate to say like, oh, well, we'll find out. How Duke plays Clemson in that week 1 matchup is going to be very, very telling. That's a measuring stick game for me. Whereas you mentioned the talent discrepancy. How do you play? Can you cover the spread where right now we think it's about 2 touchdowns? And again, I'm telling you right now that line is going to move because the game's on September the 4th, which is that the Sunday or the Monday?
It's the Monday. It's Labor Day.
People are going to be recouping their losses, and I promise you that line is going to move, Luis.
And look at UNC in South Carolina that weekend as well. So that's another great measure.
College game day, baby.
If UNC does not want to fall into the constant pattern of what UNC football is, where it's like this, expectations, they don't deliver. Expectations, they don't deliver. Beating South Carolina would be a great place to start with reversing those kind of expectations. But hey, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. I think we go to the NFL. I think we stay at Bank of America Stadium, where UNC and South Carolina will be playing that first week of the season. So Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers has officially been named quarterback 1, which it always just seemed kind of like, of course he is. Like all respect to Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton's going to be a great backup and a great mentor for. I love me some Andy Dalton. He's going to be a great mentor for Bryce Young, but Bryce Young's the guy now. So the question that we are proposing to the viewers, the question that I'm proposing to you, Mark Bergin, is how much playing time should Bryce Young get in the preseason?
I think he should play however long the starters play in game 2, because remember, there are now 3 preseason games, not 4 as there traditionally were. We have 17 game regular season now. So however long the starters are playing in the second game, which is when most of the starters traditionally play, that's how long I keep Bryce Young out there for. I don't even know if he should play in that first game against the Jets on August the 12th. Like, if his starters aren't out there, what I care about is what is his rapport with his linemen, with his skill position players. If those players aren't out there, I expect him to be like, yes, the NFL speed's faster than college. That's not a news flash, but is the number one pick. If he's not developing a rapport with the players he's actually going to play with, what's the point? And so the reason I say this, you don't want to get him injured. We know all about his size concerns coming into the league. If I'm Frank Reich and company and the Panthers, I might not even play him in the first game, depending on who else that's going to be a starter come week 1 against Atlanta. That's kind of how I gauge that. But the reason I was laughing, though, Lewis, you mentioned Andy Dalton and Bryce Young and QB1. Think about that great Bears tweet where they deemed Andy Dalton QB1 before Chicago ended up drafting Justin Fields. So that's a glimpse into the brilliant mind that is Mark Bergin.
I love Andy Dalton. No, I think I think it's all about context with Bryce Young. They're going to be holding that joint practice session with the New York Jets, which I think will essentially be worth more than a preseason game would be for Bryce Young. So you have that. Okay. I know, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's probably going to be good against good. So I think that's worth more than a preseason game would be for Bryce Young. So you have that in your back pocket. I think there's kind of a balancing act between playing too much in the preseason versus playing not enough. Because especially when you have a group like the Panthers that are so new to each other. You have some carryovers, some people who are still there from last year, especially on the offensive line. But, new coaching staff, new scheme, so many new skill position players. The list just goes on. DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, Hayden Hurst, Miles Sanders, all of those
roster
is so much. Yeah. So you want them to get into rhythm. You want them to get comfortable, but you don't want to risk them to injury. I think game 2, a couple of series, maybe a quarter max.
And can I say this too, Lewis, for people that are watching the preseason, and I can't wait to watch because, we've got pickleball on ESPN right now. There's not a ton
don't trash
to watch
pickleball.
Okay.
Pickleball's great.
But that's fine. It's like a war reenactment, and this is an analogy my guy Dave Damashek has used. Don't take away too much from the preseason because it looks like the real thing. It feels like the real thing. It has no bearing on how the regular season will play out.
0.
And part of this, too, is even if Bryce Young lights it up, maybe if he looks bad, maybe you take away something from that because the opposing defenses are playing very, very vanilla schemes. So what I mean by this is they're going to be playing their base 4-3 defense. They'll play their base 3-4 defense. You don't expect a lot of blitz packages, stunts, things that are a little bit more exotic that can confuse a quarterback of something that a defensive coordinator is going to save for the regular season when the games actually matter. So it's more so, hey, let's go out there in, very traditional setups, both offensively and defensively, and just kind of see what you can do 11 on 11. It's not like they're going to scheme. It's not like you're going to game plan for an opposing team all that much during the preseason because both teams are trying to figure out, okay, who are the guys on the back half that are trying to make the 53-man roster?
Yes. Well, and some of it too is, they're professionals, right? So this isn't as big of a problem. Maybe it helps you out a little bit in like a first game type thing, but this is a new offense for the Panthers. There's going to be tape that coaches can review on what what their offense might look like, but they're not going to know for sure. So you don't want to put too much out there at this point in time. I think that's a fair kind of presumption that the coaching staff, you know how football coaches are. They always think that they have like national secrets and they have to be careful not to reveal too much information.
Lewis, I'm going to do a full podcast where I hold my notes right in front of my face so you can't actually see what it is that I'm saying.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of how I view what the Panthers got going on. They're going to be okay, but give it a little bit of time. I still think they're going to take away a lot more from that practice against the Jets than they will in the preseason.
That's fascinating to me because I mean that's the one thing you can't replicate is the game speed. But again, don't take away too much from any of this because like I think there's already enough over analysis as is from week to week during the regular season. Preseason, it's just like forget about it, Lewis.
By the way, if you are
Mm.
interested in Panthers preseason type stuff, we're gonna have Fan Fest coverage on WRAL. Fan Fest, it's essentially kind of like a glorified scrimmage session where fans get to go to Bank of America Stadium and watch and have a good time. Coverage is 7 o'clock on Wednesday, August 2nd. So if you're listening to this or watching this before Wednesday, August 2nd, there you go. You can watch it on the Big 5 WRAL. And then Pat Welter will be up there for coverage throughout the afternoon and early evening from Panthers Fan Fest. So something
Glad you mentioned that. And I thought
s-
Chris Lee did a terrific job as well in Spartanburg with his
it's hot.
training camp coverage as well. Who knew that Bryce Young could sing in addition
I
to
know.
his on-field abilities as a quarterback? But
It
Lewis,
was
tremendous plug there. Yeah.
it was hot. It was hot for Chris out there in Spartanburg, that's for sure.
I'm glad
All
he
right, let's go and go
survived.
from right. Let's go from football to football. The Women's World Cup continues. They're still in group play. You can watch most of these matches or a lot of these matches on Fox 50, even though sometimes they're very early in the morning or late at night, kind of depending on how you view things. But Team USA is in a very interesting position. They have 4 points right now on the table. But the issue is there's only one game left. The Netherlands have 4 points. USA has 4 points, and Portugal has 3 points. So Team USA is now in a situation where they have to get a result from their game coming up against Portugal. By the way, that game is at 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So that's August 1st at 3 a.m. Just, can make sure sometimes it's what is morning, what is night. It's difficult to kind of perceive, but you can watch that coming up on Fox 50. And then, of course, coverage on WRAL and Fox 50 as well. So they need to get a result. They need to get either a win or a draw. What has kind of been your thoughts watching this USA women's team playing in Group E so far, Mark?
I'm glad that Team USA salvaged a tie against the Netherlands
Yes.
because I was very nervous early on, but Team USA also had plenty of opportunities at the end of that match to outright win it. But you put yourself in a position to say you either have to tie or you got to win to advance in the group stage. You want to win the group stage if possible, but look, and it might come down to goal differential because the Netherlands, pretty good team. Now, for the game against Portugal, I look at it from this standpoint, right? Team USA was favored by a half goal against the Netherlands. They're favored by a goal and a half against Portugal. So you got to take care of business. I know there's going to be a big target on your back to say you're vying to win your third consecutive Women's World Cup. You've won the last two, but you got to get out of the group stage. And Lewis, I'll say this. I would be shocked if Team USA does not advance. I would be shocked if Team USA doesn't find a way to at least pull out a draw or to outright win early Tuesday morning, 3 a.m.
Yeah, I think they should be fine. I think they should be fine. Just for perspective here, right? This was the first time they had not pulled out a win in group stage since I think it had been 2015. I want to say it's
Yeah.
been quite some time. But the Netherlands are a very good team, and USA is the US is in a bit of a weird position between generations right now. And there are so many injuries to key players before the year, even before the Women's World Cup even got started. And that's for the USA as well as a lot of other teams. Really, just been kind of bad injury luck in general. So you have all of that kind of factoring into what has been lackluster offense, being out of position on defense. They just kind of seemed flat against the Netherlands in the first half, and then turned it on in the second half. So for those of you who may not know or may not be following exactly what the situation is here, right? The Netherlands play Vietnam, and then the U.S. plays Portugal in the final game of Group E. If there is you have to assume the Netherlands are going to beat Vietnam. Vietnam is -5 in goal differential. They have 0 points in Group E. So you assume they're going to get 3 points. Boom. If the U.S. beats Portugal by more goals than even if they just by more goals than what the Netherlands beat Vietnam by. They'll win. They have right now they're +3 in goal differential, and the Netherlands is +1 in goal differential. But the thing is, the way things have gone against Vietnam, like the USA beat Vietnam 3-0. So there is a chance that goal differential number could expand for the Netherlands. But then if the US does not get at least a draw against Portugal, if Portugal were to get the win, they would have 6 points and the US would only have 4, and the US wouldn't advance. So these are just things to keep in mind. It has been an interesting set of group stage so far for the US. Little bit shaky. They're going to have to continue to grow, and especially with how much they're relying on some of these younger players.
The stat that I found fascinating, Lewis, is Team USA hadn't trailed at halftime in a game since 2011. So it had been a decade plus since the last time they trailed at halftime. Again, able to salvage and at least get a 1-1 draw in that matchup. But you mentioned, it's funny because before the tournament we talked and we said, okay, keep your eye on Trinity Rodman, keep your eye on Alyssa Thompson. Alyssa Thompson, an 18-year-old player who's only on the team as a result of injuries to other players. So you have young players like that. Trinity Rodman, I believe, is 21 years old. And you have some of the old guard, the Megan Rapinos of the world, some of the other players on Team USA. I know there's 2 other Team USA players that are playing in their 4th World Cup. So it's like you have some of the experience with players who have played in multiple World Cups, and you have some players where this is their very first time playing. How do they gel together? It's going to be really telling to me to see how you come out when you face some adversity, right, in the group stage. And then what I also want to know too, assuming the Team USA and the Netherlands both advance, how good is this Netherlands team? Is this just, okay, they happen to be playing their games? I don't know all the technicalities to soccer, Lewis, but what I was seeing on Twitter, or the platform formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, was that the Netherlands were playing 5 midfielders, and that's why the Netherlands dominated possession in the first half of that second game against Team USA. So I don't know all of the strategy as I would say in football or basketball, but when Team USA, they need a tie, they need a win. How do you respond? And not just, okay, they managed to survive, they managed to get by. If you're favored by 1.5 goals, I'd expect Team USA to cover just traditionally from what we've seen from the Americans. Team USA, 3 a.m. We're going to wake up tomorrow feeling great, having advanced in this group stage, Lewis. I'm manifesting this into the world now.
Gotta keep an eye on Lindsey Horan, who scored 2 goals so far. The captain, or co-captain with Alex Morgan, just been absolutely dominant. Sophia Smith has been fantastic. I mean, especially in that Vietnam game, 2 goals and assist. I mean, she almost had another, goal, a couple of opportunities for her in that game against the Netherlands as well.
Well, that's the rapport that I'm talking about, though, because you win 3-0 against Vietnam, and you're like, oh, okay, great, that's a dominant win. Team USA was favored by like 4.5 goals entering that match, in the opening match. So maybe it takes a little bit more time to say, hey, again, players who have a ton of experience compared to players where this is their first time on an international stage.
Well, and too, like, so much of what the U.S. plays so fast. And when you have a team like the Netherlands who just controls possession, that makes it so difficult. The Netherlands are a good team. They're a team that can win the World Cup. But still.
But what I saw was the 5 midfielders, and they were playing 3 back from a strategy standpoint. And that's why at midfield, and it's like Team USA seemed to make an adjustment in the second half. I mean, again, and look, here's the thing too, Lewis. How different is this conversation that we're having right now? If Team USA gets 1 goal at the end of that game, they're already advanced onto the group stage, and this third matchup doesn't even matter. How different of a conversation we're having.
Sure. No, that's fair. Anyway, that game is coming up August 1st. That is Tuesday at 3 a.m. You can watch that on Fox 50.
3 a.m. Eastern, too. People are going to be like, wait, what?
Sure.
This game's, it's on the other side of the world, New Zealand and Australia.
14-hour time difference, I think, is what it is. It's something wild like that. But that is going to do it for us here at WRAL Triangle and 2. I'm Luis Fernandez. He's Mark Bergin. Catch us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Find us on WRALSportsFan.com. Catch us on the 99.9 YouTube page. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow along, 5-star reviews, all of that stuff. We will see you all next week.